This is Dust War Journals, episode 37, your number one stop for all news and discussion related to Dust 1947. My name is Johannes, and with me today are...
Hallo, and I'd just like to say, ich bin ein Model und ich sieht gut aus. Das ist heute.
Yeah, you were at a concert recently.
Yes, I were. Me and my daughter was at a very good concert. Yeah. But let's not dwell about that. Let's introduce the man to our left, the most left person in the world.
Hey everyone, Magnus is here as well.
Also known as...
yeah.
yeah.
They know that by now.
Yeah. Wow. For all Swedish audience.
Yeah, it's a boisterous start to this episode.
Cheerio.
Yeah. So hobby time. Have you had any time for hobby time, being on concerts and everything?
Well, first I need to say, where are we today? Because we are not in the same location as last time.
Our viewers on YouTube might recognize or not recognize the environments here, because today we are in Ludda's apartment.
Yeah, and unfortunately my mind always goes astray, so I didn't realize I should have fixed my hobby room so we could get in there, but it was like chaos right now, unfortunately, in the hobby room. So we're in my living room, and well, since most of the time the backdrop you see here is not seen, it's a projection
screen,
projection screen there. So I thought, why not just pull it up once this month and then show the stuff on the wall, and it's a little bit game orientated. I think you could perhaps take some
game and movie, especially, I would say.
Yeah,
movie oriented. Mm-hmm.
So, well, that's where we are, and we try to compensate with some gaming, paraphernalia.
Some accoutrement.
Yeah, ah oui, monsieur, ah oui. Well, if the question were about hobby time, and I should have been last, I think, because I have not remembered what I've done the last couple of weeks. It has been...
Was it that good a concert?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good week.
Like a 2-week blackout.
Yeah, almost. The problem is it was yesterday, so I didn't know how I could cram it.
Preemptive blackouts. Yeah, that's a new word.
Right.
No, but the most hobby time has actually been spent in Magnus' apartment. It's been a regular thing now when we do hobby stuff.
Kind of true.
Yeah,
yeah. We did play some board games. I got a new one from through Kickstarter. So we got a chance to try that out. And I hope you liked it. I liked it. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I just put that out there. I were a few days at Disney World in Paris, and that's why I a lot of time went just before and after and during. So
yeah, but I think that would count as hobby time, right?
Yeah.
Getting some inspiration or something. I don't know.
Yeah. You got a lot of interesting thoughts in your head when you were there, but it was
I can imagine. And for me it's been a weird few weeks, because I did start off doing a little bit of painting and a little bit of modeling, and then something got released called World of Warcraft Classic. I don't know if anyone heard of it.
No, I know World of Warcraft Classics.
No, just a few million people around the world, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, it kind of sucked up all my evenings just in later few weeks. So yeah, hopefully that's going to, like with most things, it's peak at the start and then it just goes off. So maybe we'll see. I have some, as you know, I have some ideas. I have some projects going on with Dust and with other games, and very looking forward to completing a few specific armies. So there's stuff going on, but nothing really concrete, unfortunately.
And then I think most of us also, it's it's the end of the summer and start of the work period, so everyone is just trying to get to the good jump off point for the autumn and to be able to then carry on, I guess, until like Christmas, and then it gets all crazy again, and then
that's kind of true.
So
so I'm guessing
autumn is always a weird time of year that way. That's true, but that said, you Magnus, you kind of told us before that you
Yeah,
have some.
yeah, exactly. I
You have
decided
some goodies to show
do a little
us.
bit of show and tell today because I think I mentioned last episode that me and our good friend Mats bought together a new 3D printer. Which is Mats is it's located at his place, and he's really into this. As you know, we told that before about designing and trying, and he's pretty good at it. And he's been like really, pumping out trying all kinds of different cool stuff, and some of it works, others not so much. But it's a learning process as well. And I just met him now a few days ago. And he brought me some cool stuff, and I wanted to show you one of those that I managed to almost finish. That's I was a little bit late here today, as you know, and it was
were working on it all.
reason because I wanted to.
Ooh, I'm seeing
finish
something.
this. Let's see here. what we can
Gosh,
do.
that's why we haven't seen Mats
So I will send
around.
this around the table, and maybe we
yes.
can show it to the camera later.
Yeah,
So
we
this
take
is
this around the table and then under the table, and where did it go? No.
This is one of the Nordwinds, and the hull is one piece, 3D printed, and the wheels are separate pieces, but also 3D printed. The tower is the official Dust tower from, the turret is from the official Dust line. And I've also added a few Tamiya details, the jerry cans and such as.
Yeah, and the decals.
Yeah, the decals is also Dust from Dust Studio. And it's a bit,
really,
if
really
you would
cool.
compare it to a real model, if you look at it close and compare it, the details aren't as good, and it's a bit rough. You can see some kind of stripes on it.
Yeah, you get the patterns. So inevitable.
But I did this super quickly, so I probably could have worked a bit more to file it down and make it look better. But at like arm's distance, I think it looks really, really nice, and it works.
It works wonders on the gaming table. Ones that complains about that, those are the guys that should leave the gaming table and just fuck off, basically.
And the interesting part about this is that there are guys out there who has done so many of these historical vehicles that you can find.
A ton of it. Just download it for free and print on your 3D printer. There's so much.
I am mostly curious. Mats will try to print, some kind of different like tractors or just like trucks. I don't know, transport trucks, whatever stuff that we can use as terrain or to add. Yeah. Like make the tables look better. So I'm really hoping this will work out and be really cool.
Yeah, and for my own selfish reasons, I hope he will want to do more, and he wants to talk to me about how I can prepare some of them, because a few of those on the gaming table would look extremely good.
Yeah, and this one is the I think it was the second he printed, because the first one, I don't know, there was some kind of glitch in the file or something, so he brought that one to me as well, so maybe I can use it as a wreckage or something, because it looks weird, but if I do some, I don't know, cutting and sawing, and maybe I can use it for something. It will not look good as a playable model, but this one looks okay. And I also know that you can put the settings in the machine. It's printing in layers, and you can make the layers even thinner than this one to make it smoother and it look better. Of course, it will take longer to print it, but I think this one took almost 2 days to print, so it takes some time as it is. But of course, if you want it to look good, you can maybe add a day or even two, and it will look really good then.
But basically, if you wanted to do parts of it and do it for wreckage and stuff like that, I'm 100% sure that it's no problem if it's uses a worse setting because it should look like full of holes and stuff like that. So it's unfortunate that Mats has you so close that you can always use all the parts that goes astray or doesn't work for them, because I would love to just do something with the pieces that were just broken or didn't turn out right, because it's just use some creativity and build a crater and everything like around it. It could be it's soon a bathroom break here. Mats, you really have to talk to me, please, you beautiful tall handsome devil there, please.
That's the thing is how much you value the work in that, because the cost for the actual plastic is negligible. It's very, very cheap. But like you said, it took almost 2 days to print this small piece. So that's basically what's costly. It's the time investment in it.
Yeah, and I mean, these files are downloaded from the internet from somebody. I mean, somebody designed this. Yeah. Somebody took their time in their computer to design it and make it look good. Yeah. And that is, of course, also a lot of time spent. So, but printing these for personal use is pretty cool. But it also tells something about why models are expensive when you buy them. Because you don't pay for the plastic or for the metal or whatever it is. You pay for time spent by people putting it together. So
a lot of people tend to forget that, unfortunately.
And it's not like we want Dust Studios not to sell any more models here. It's just that when you can get that high quality of terrain and to add to your gaming table, it's just everyone.
Then you get into the issue with copyright, and that's when I think that the Dust Studio has done a very good job with their design work, because they have those unique designs that is decidedly Dust, and people can't just make copies of that and put them on Thingiverse or anything else, because it's their designs. So that's the genius of it. If you want to use these generic vehicles but then Dustify them with special, sure, of course you can do that. That's always been fine. It doesn't matter how you create it, if you scratch build it yourself, if you buy another, like a Tamiya kit, or if in this case you 3D print it. The studio has always been fine with that. Because that's not what they're interested in, making money. They are interested in people doing that with their models, of course. But it's not you can understand why it's not a main part that everyone's interested in, of course.
And I realize that this is probably not a real applicable question out there to the studio, but I could have been one of those that if they had, for instance, sometimes some problems when they produce their walkers or something like that, and they do bad molds, I would have loved to buy like faulty default parts that one could use as terrain. So I don't know, if perhaps they don't want to admit that they do faulty parts and they are perfectionists and they always do everything perfect, which I would assume you always do, of course. But I mean, I could actually buy a bag of damaged legs. Broken bits.
A bag of broken bits.
Wouldn't that be great? I mean, and that should be. I could buy them.
Building with broken bits.
We're getting a sing along here today. You guys, you out there. We should have the Dust War Journal song, and
we almost do one per episode. Right, that's really awesome.
Definitely.
Is there anything else that you're working on at the moment, Magnus?
Well, I did receive some more like boxes of different sizes that I'm going to use on the table. I've been talking about for a long time now. The kind of harbor-ish table. Just more stuff, because I'm not sure how much I will need, and I'd rather have too much of
course.
of kind of scatter terrain stuff. And just if there are stuff left over after, then fine, I can use it, for something else.
Yeah.
So I've done just also the last few days a little bit of that, just putting together some like wooden. I mean, they are in plastic, but they look like wooden boxes,
crates,
and started painting, just small stuff that will go to that table.
Very cool.
Sounds very nice. And perhaps we should mention, you Johannes, found a link to Kickstarter that was the same Kickstarter
that's actually
guy.
true. We could mention that if people have seen your oil field, your oil derrick. Because that's based on an MDF kit that you got on Kickstarter a while back, and the same guy is now doing another Kickstarter with that oil derrick and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's rotating radar dishes. There's some more sci-fi stuff with some like rotating hydroponics base. And there's a lot of really cool things.
It's a UK-based guy who's got a company called War Game Model Mods.
Yeah.
Where I guess you can put up the link somewhere. And this guy has done some truly amazing stuff, really. I don't know. Some of it is just so cool. Both the new stuff now in the Kickstarter that is running right now, and also a whole bunch of the older stuff. I did get that oil rig, oil pump, oil derrick thingy, which was the one that I liked the best. But I also have a couple of other stuff. The building that I finished. Recently. Well,
with the tower and the glowing
Nordic, with light sort of reactor thingy, is also from him, and I still have, I think it's one like major building more laying around at home that I haven't put together, and there's also a couple of extras like Kickstarter freebies that I got. I can't remember exactly what they were, but smaller, like you could use them for objectives and whatnot. But he does some really cool stuff. I mean, the design, how they look, just the MDF kit is really nice. And when you add some LED lights, and if you add electric motors and stuff like that. And in this new Kickstarter, he's also got some kind of computer chip that you can program to sync movement and lighting and stuff, and put some kind of loop or whatever, how you want it to act. And it's super cool. Super cool. It's definitely nothing that you... it's definitely something that you... Well, no, you don't need it. It's definitely something that you do not need, but it will make your table look so much better, so much cooler.
We see that almost every time we do demos, and you bring the old derrick table. No matter if people are interested in the game or not, they stop and look at that.
Because it's a sound, it's lights, and it moves. So it's three things that catches the person, and then they perhaps stay a little while and you talk about the game. So that's actually a tip to you who do the demos in different places. Have something that moves and blinks and
very simple suggestion. I've done this myself when we've done demos. Have a rotating display. Like those little motorized things, and just put some models on it. Very simple, but it works.
But that's what it is, because sound interests people the most. But first, I mean, but then it's motion. So if someone is waving when someone is talking, your eyes goes to the wave and you start listening. But if you wave and talk at the same time, you get 100%. That's why I'm right now. You're only watching me right now. Okay, you're only watching me. No, sorry. Basically, so. And that works with the demos as well, of course. And we talked about this, and people have asked, what should I do to interest more people? Well, if they, for some reason, need to be tricked a little bit to listen to how great a game it is, why don't trick them by some lights and some movement? I mean, that's...
and I might also mention that the oil derrick that I built, he never put it up on his website because he wasn't quite happy with it design-wise. So we decided to not put it up as a regular product, so it's virtually impossible to get it. But in the new Kickstarter right now, there is an oil derrick. It looks a bit different, but as far as I can tell, it's like based on the same idea. The groundworks for it looks very similar, at least. So now you have a chance to get one of those, and I think they fit so well in the Dust universe, and the look of it, this sort of heavy diesel. You can almost smell the diesel from it. So yeah.
Yeah, you should say that some, I could say perhaps at least 50% of what I've seen him do is not perhaps for Dust because it's too high tech or something like that.
Yeah.
But then but when you add something, even if it's a little bit perhaps too high tech, and you put the regular Dust terrain, for instance, with the old Sverograd plastic buildings and stuff like that, and you merge them together, you can manage to make it seamless, and it just transcends. And
you have used a lot of those shipping containers from GW, for instance. You just file off all the skulls.
Why not? It's a lot of those things that could be reused. I mean, if you just think about it a little bit.
All right, let's go over and talk some news. There's been a few new releases since last episode, but not that much. I mean, last episode there was just a ton of new stuff, so I'm quite understanding that they're keeping a low profile at the moment. There are 2 unit boxes that have got new premium pattern releases. It's the Obliterator for the Mercenaries, and it's the Grenadier Support Squads for the Axis. And this isn't really new because it's the same units that were available back in the FFG days, but it's just not been available to buy really for a very long time, so in that way it's new. The Obliterator in the Hellgate pattern is completely new with this pattern. I must say, just comparing these two, I really like the Hellgate pattern for this. It's much brighter. It's like a pinkish skin tone on the walker almost. It's very mercenary, very, very interesting and eye-catching. I really enjoy it.
But also, when it comes to the Grenadier Support Squad, it's the new thing that the mortar is in there as well.
Yeah.
So you get a much better package of stuff to play around with.
That is absolutely true. You get the Observer Squad, the Sniper Squad, and the Mortar Squad. And yes, the Mortar Squad specifically is the one that's been very, very hard to get a hold of. It's almost like people didn't think it existed.
Yeah.
So
and one other thing that is very good with this pattern, that it's not camo. Because just try to be a little bit funny here, I painted one of my sniper squads in green camo, and then I put them in the wrong box, so I didn't find them for over a year because they actually went camouflage on me. But I found them finally.
So you painted them too well.
Yes. I don't say they're especially good painted, but that camo for some reason blended them into that box which I put them in. So it took over a year before I found where I put them.
And then finally, also some older models, but in a new box. It's the Spetsnaz HQ box in the Babylon pattern. And I'm suspecting that this means that the box will be available in model kit and primed form as well in the near future. So this is just the normal HQ box basically. It's the command squad and 3 heroes. In this case, it's the Red Banner, it's the Butcher, and it's the General Mr. Iron Joe.
Well, you miss Jana there, but
that is true, but it's a solid box. Except maybe for, like we talked about, Vasily the Red Banner. People haven't really found a use for him, unfortunately.
No, but it makes a great statue. File off that.
I think the Butcher makes up for it because he's just a bastard. That guy.
That is something that I really memorized. I don't necessarily take the Butcher every time when I play Spetsnaz, but definitely every time I will play you, because I feel like it's so genuine that you're really frustration and hate for this guy. I will bring him just
personal.
It almost is.
Yeah. So I don't know what I'm going to do with him, but I'll put him there for Johannes to watch and see and frighten. Oh well, we will see.
All right. So let's go over to our next little section, which is something new that we have concocted, and I'm going to leave this over to Magnus.
Well, it's been a while since we had some kind of contest, so we thought, why not? It's time to have a little contest. So we are going to have 3 questions for all you guys out there, guys and girls. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. And we will ask these questions throughout this episode, and you will have a chance to go to the website and answer these questions. And amongst the correct answers, we will randomly select winners. I'm not sure if we decided what is the prize yet.
Yeah,
I did.
Yes.
I heard you talking about it, but I kind of was busy with other stuff. So
we decided that the prize for this contest are going to be the railgun squad for the mercenaries. So something that
I want to win that.
That anyone can use.
But Magnus, then you have to answer the questions correctly. So, I think we all 3 are out.
Right, but anyway, here is the first question. We are wondering who is the maybe lesser known sister of the allied character Rosie?
And just to be clear, for all these answers, we are looking for a name of a character, and we want the full name of the character.
Yes.
So I think most people know the allied mechanic bazooka slinging character Rosie, but
especially
she also
since she has like 5 different models.
Yeah, exactly. So. But she has a sister.
She is also in the game. We can say that.
She is a playable hero, actually.
If not for you, then maybe your sister.
Exactly. So that's the first question. Rose's sister, who is she?
Very nice. Okay. Yes. And we'll go to get back to the other questions later on in the show. But for now, let's go over to mail call, and we have some interesting questions here. We should actually take up something first before we get into this episode's questions, because we had some discussion after last episode about the whole support team and the support weapon rule and how that works, and the FAQ and stuff. And after talking a bit about it on Facebook and on the forums, and consulting with Gregoire and with Olivier and a lot of other people, the consensus seems to be that since the FAQ, it is possible for just one single soldier to use the support weapon in all cases.
Wow, yeah, right. Good. So I didn't cheat then?
No.
Okay, I've been
vindicated.
You did not. Thank you. I did not.
For once you were playing by the rules.
Okay, I promise I will do better. Next time I will cheat.
And I understand, I kind of like the original idea just for the flavor of it, but I definitely can understand just using it this way for the ease of just rules-wise, definitely.
And just when we comment on these questions, since I usually comment a little bit more on them, I just like to point out there that I'm on a monthly holiday from Facebook. So if you thought that I ignored you, perhaps I did, but not more than usually, because actually I won't be back on Facebook until 20th of September. It's a little experiment. It's been hell trying to not go into that freaking thing. I've been looking at the red bowl there with all the
see the number rising.
And I just
you can turn that off, right?
No, but and it was really, really hard. Fortunately, also my telephone is going to craps, so if I had taken any pictures, but I couldn't during the Kraftwerk concert yesterday, I would have I would probably have gone online just to post, because I was I was so moved by that.
Maybe we should have that as a Patreon goal. Get Ludda a new phone.
No, please, no, we don't. I guess I have to buy a new thing just to be able to be doing my bank stuff and pay my bills and stuff like that. So I will upgrade, but that's not why I ain't on Facebook. I'm sorry I hijacked the subject now. It's just that I just felt like it took too much time, and I was there when I didn't want to be there. And it has its benefits, but I just feel like I want to try to do something this autumn. Maybe it's a midlife crisis or something. Just try to revamp myself. I
think that's a good idea to do stuff like that from time to time.
Yeah.
Definitely, especially when you get to that point, like I said, that you feel that you're doing it more than you really want to. So I know that just for Facebook especially, that's not really a problem for you, Magnus. So.
No.
I started that way by completely ignoring Facebook, and I have no plans to start doing Facebook.
Yeah, that's very good. It's inspiring, but I mean, I see what happens when we get to the 20th of September. If you're still holding up your the bad thing is actually that we started last year with a thread for our work, and I have a lot of interviewers out in the Swedish country that works for me, and they want more interaction with us from the main office, and apparently it's been very popular for some of them to go out on that thread and to communicate with us, and we have been quite good on communicating with them on that Facebook thread. So basically, I think I just have to go online when when the shit hits the fan and when we start working, which is a little bit depressing, but I'll try to work around that. So we will see. Sorry. Right. Yeah.
So now let's go into our mailbag. Go to the mail column. Our first question comes from Gaituni de Sersmorts. I don't really know how to properly pronounce this.
With a smile.
Yeah.
Gaituni.
Which I always do, of course.
Yeah.
The question is, what could be the third faction for allies? I want a third allies faction. Well, I would say technically there already are three. We have the Rangers, we have the Desert Scorpions, and we have the USMC. But I understand what he means, because all the other blocks, or rather the three big blocks, have more factions than the Allies do. So I definitely think that the Allies, I agree, that the Allies are due a new faction. The question is, what would that faction be?
Well, there are a few units that already exist for that third faction, which is the Special Service Brigade.
Yeah.
Yes, in a way, but they've also been kind of retrofitted into the Desert Scorpions by this time. So,
but there's still a possibility for them to evolve.
They are a possibility, and it would be an interesting kind of thing, because that's a very elite force, which is something that the Allies don't really have at this point. Both the USMC and the Desert Scorpions are more specialized. The USMC are just basically the grunts, they're mass force, and the Desert Scorpions are those specialized scouts also. So what would be interesting to do, what do you think, in a Special Service Brigade? We do have those Soldier 3, of course, but if you do something else, paratrooping Soldier 2s, could that be a thing for them? Maybe.
Well, if they do flash out the service brigade, you can have level 2 and perhaps even level 1s, and perhaps other thing. I would have loved to have that it was probably shit, but that British paratroop tank.
They talked about before, earlier in the game's history. That's true.
So I would love something like that we could just by the surprise from the opponent when you drop a tank all of a sudden in midst of them. I would love that. I would love that so much.
More like heavy transport planes or something like that for the Allies. That could be a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, but something completely different, something completely new. I think there are, and I think there's room for some completely new stuff there that you can.
I think so too. And just to get that, I'm kind of liking that idea of doing some more specialized Soldier 2, because we haven't really had any new Soldier 2s for a while now in the game, so it would be interesting to see what you can do.
I haven't had too many Soldier 3s either.
That's true. Well, there are some from time to time, but yeah, that's true. Most of the new units have been Soldier 1s.
An easy thing to talk about would be perhaps that they could, but that was just because there are so many players now in Poland, they could do a Polish thing or something like that, even though they are very much into the
I was
Desert
kind of
Scorpions.
thinking along those lines as well when I read this question. I know that Paolo talked about having these minor factions together for the Axis that you have, like Italy, you have a lot of the other.
Yeah.
You can do something similar with the Allies and have minor allies of the Allies.
Yeah.
So
and since we're probably going to go a little bit more into the Antarctica in the future, at least that's why how I get the picture. Why not a Nordic army that consists of Swedes, Danes, Finns, or perhaps not Finns, but at least the Norwegians, and they can be like the Snow Rangers, and they are specially drafted just to be able to take. And you can have Eskimos and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know, a little bit something like that. Perhaps just a winter specialized army.
yeah.
I don't know if that's, but. It could be interesting, I think.
Definitely. All right. Let's see where we are. Our next question comes from Bruno Patella. How come the BA-64 is a small vehicle and the cultist raiders or Deadly Tilly aren't? Is it intentional or a mistake? I think this is definitely intentional.
Yeah.
I think we discussed this with Oliver back when the Raiders were released, that the Raiders aren't considered a small vehicle, but the Eradicator for the cultists are. And that's physically is a larger vehicle. And his comments was first, well, it's not just the physical size, it's how it moves, and also it's just a freaking game. so I think this is an intentional game balance question. So I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a game. It's not, simulation that is supposed to be as realistic as possible. It's very unrealistic. So it's many things. It's game balance. It's the fun factor and stuff like that you have to take into account. But sure, it's a fair question, absolutely. But yeah, I'm also very certain that it's intentional.
Yeah, and if I understand things correctly, I think it's a lot of vehicles that has the wrong scale towards when you compare them to the infantry that's in the game, that they have opted for some. I mean, the flyers are smaller than they should be.
Yes, of course. If you go by that,
some of the tanks are bigger than they or smaller than they are.
I mean, if you look at the airplanes in Dust, they are tiny compared to how airplanes should be in 1/48 scale. They definitely are, and they kind of excuse that with, well, they're VK powered, so they don't need that big of a wing because they have that much power in their engines. So they kind of fudge it that way. And if you compare, of course, you can look at it, just see it here with the stuff we have put out here. The infantry guys are quite big compared to the vehicles. Two things about that. Vehicles that were used in World War II were smaller than people realize. You see that when you go and look at them in museums or such. But also that the infantry scale in this game is not the same as for the vehicles. No. They are intentionally a little bit bigger just because it looks better. You can see that very clearly if you look at the figures you get with the Tamiya kits. That they are a little bit shorter and much skinnier, because those are much more realistic proportions. If you blew these guys, their normal Dust figurines up to human size, they would look ridiculous. But it looks good when you look at it at this scale, at the tabletop. It looks fine.
I would say, especially if you look at Soldier 3s and 4s, or maybe not 4 because they are supposed to be more machine than man. Exactly.
They would look like a Michelin Man.
But for example, the Allied Soldier 3s, just take a look at them and see like the measurement from shoulder to shoulder on those guys. But it doesn't matter because it's a game and it looks machine.
And
exactly.
We get that question sometimes as well. What scale of units, vehicles, buildings, etc. should I use for Dust? And I would say that the answer is it's up to you. If you feel it looks right with your stuff, then go for whatever you want. The official scale is 1/48 scale.
But also
every different like model maker has slight difference. It's not always exactly the same. So Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it also differs between companies that
Yep.
produce stuff. If you take one 1-48 thing and compare it to another, they can be very different in size because different companies.
Yeah.
I have, for example, as an example, I have a truck that is supposed to be 1-43 scale. Which is a fairly common scale, actually.
Yeah, just for model
but
cars,
when you look at it and compare it to, it looks slightly smaller than the 1-48, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And for like smaller tanks or vehicles, stuff like that, 1-35 is a quite common scale to use for model kits.
Yeah.
That doesn't look bad at all if you combine them with Dust Infantry.
No, isn't it? When everyone has made a good version of that German motorbikes with the infantry 3 crew on them, with the sidecar and stuff. They always do the 135 motorcycles because they...
Yeah, it would look like a kid's bike.
Yeah, otherwise it looks like they're carrying it.
I could see that.
So basically you just have to put things next to each other, put your stuff next to some official models and compare it. Does it look okay? Does it look cool? Then go for it.
Yeah. And it could also be in the future, if you go back to the original question, if you count something as a small vehicle or not, those are things that can change in a future edition of the game. We've seen that happen with a few things. I mean, like the big German heavy walkers, like the Königslothar and such. Those were originally huge vehicles and took up 4 squares. Yep. In the current version of the game, they're only large.
Yeah.
So.
Or as we say in Sweden, only Lars. Because he's also only large. Not
Our
huge.
next question comes from Brian Keith Yunes. Yeah, do you guys have any holy grail dust items you're looking for? Like the old 135 kits, action figures or rare models or figures? For me, it would be the old Allied landing craft or Silence. I can actually say I have one. I have a Silence.
I have Silence as well.
Yeah,
but I'm never silent.
She's still not put together. She's still in the original packaging. I haven't even built her. But she's like
bad boy.
No. At some point, I should get her. Actually, to be honest, to make kind of to make her like the best treatment I can, maybe I should just give her to some professional painter and have that person paint her up. I have that. Amazing looking Frank von Stein that I got from a professional painter that just looks freaking awesome. So something like that, just because it's
so special.
It's such a special. For people who don't know about this model, this is a specific sniper model that was available at a tournament prize a few years ago.
Belgian Masters.
Yeah, and
European Masters.
Yeah, and after that, unfortunately, from what we heard, the casting mold got damaged and they haven't redone it yet, so it's just not available it's not going ever to be available as the exact same model anymore.
That's good.
It might turn up in some form or another. I probably think she will. But she will probably look a little bit different.
Yeah, she's a nice sniper. I like her special skills and stuff.
And the old Allied landing craft, that also one of the things that I remember from when I got into the game, that this looks really cool. That was also a dustified kit from what I remember. It was an original model kit that was dustified with some dust weapons and painted up.
Well, that's a good question as always from Brian. It makes you wonder and think about things. For a while there, I had one of those, the Allied M3 with the crane on it was one of mine that I really, really wanted. And eventually I got it made and got it done, and also the one with the barking dog, the old one, the true one, the
there was
tropical
a different version of it back in the day.
So, but then I built those two, and I made them. So it's perhaps
there are some units like that for me also were like very very elusive. It was the original zombie squad for the Axis. It was the laser grenadiers. When I got into the game, I played mostly allies at the beginning, and I tried then to get my hands on the Axis, the zombie squad. But at that point, they were just sold out absolutely everywhere. The same with the laser grenadiers, the original ones, and also the original Hermann. The one that came in the original coffin box.
Yeah.
That was also one of those that took a while. I finally found one on eBay, actually, with the original box that you can use to build.
You didn't get no Hermann in the coffin box?
No, wasn't it in the coffin box?
No. You got the...
No, the Ludwig. It was one of the original... It was one of the original waves.
Yeah.
So you got that FFG with the...
old model.
Yeah, the box with the Heinrich and the Hermann. You can build that. And I finally found one unopened on eBay for not that much money.
That is probably... that's the only one I can think of, really. That box with the Hermann and other stuff. I don't have that one, never had it.
Yeah, that's still very, very difficult to get a hold of, and it's not been re-released.
One could always build an auto with all the stuff one has, but I would love to have a proper real auto, so to speak.
I think I have one of those as well, because they had one as an option when the Kickstarter was around.
Yeah, I know. I was so... But I didn't have the money for it. I bought so much other stuff on that one, so eventually I had to say, okay, here's the limit. Until now, recently, more or less, I also had so I always had to say I had a wet dream about Oz, but I keep doing those. And perhaps you don't want to speak to me anymore soon. So no, but because it was the original one was in the sea level, wasn't it? So it was like you couldn't get a hold of it, and it was not. And I really felt like that was an interesting model. Nowadays, this has come with the HQ. I'll probably pick that box up sooner or later, because I still think you can do fun stuff with that character. But otherwise,
you do have the 1:35 scale walkers. There are some available actually still at dustgame.com, but they are quite expensive. You have like the Königsluthor. It's almost $300 for that kit, but like it's 1:35 scale, so it's really big. And at some point, if I should have that just laying around, not doing anything else with that money, maybe. But if you just go by Holy Grail, these are still available to buy. So for my take, it will probably be the original action figures that were released back before the game did exist even.
That would be nice.
That would be really cool to get a hold of.
Definitely it would. Well, to me actually, that's you can still get a hold of that as well. But for me, a little bit, the sewers from Sverograd, the gaming tiles, those are actually a little bit holy grail for me, because you can only get them from United States now, I think, and then they are super expensive with the shipping. So
even if the box itself is not that expensive, you still have to pay shipping and import tax, and I understand.
And those are so good. I think I still feel like those are the best looking tiles or maps or gaming mats they have ever made. Those sewers. I mean, if they for some reason were to reprint them or print them as a gaming, if one can find a solution to have them as a gaming map or something, that would be Matt. I mean, of course, not a map, but you get that. Oh, so sorry. Yeah, well,
that would be really cool. And just talking about like rare models and figures, you just reminded that we actually had one that we gave away.
Yeah.
If you have some newer, we sometimes get that distinction.
Definitely.
We had that the pre-production figure of the ninja, the curry. No, not curry. The Wang Wong. Yeah. And that model has still not been released.
Yeah, so it's still super
unique.
Exclusive.
It's still only one person in the world who has that.
And I actually know, but I know you have this, but there's one model I now realize that would actually be, because in my mind, I always had such a sympathetic take on that person when he was chatting on Facebook, and even though perhaps I felt sometimes the rules were interpreted a little bit.
I think I know where you're going with this.
So, and since I play Allies a lot, and I would like to play more Allied aircrafts, to have Rick in my, I would have loved to get a hold on that. But that was also a one-off metal, wasn't it?
Yeah, they made a few of them. It was Rick Ivanchek who was one of the leading community members back in the day.
High Commander.
Yeah, exactly. And they made a special like metal cast figure for him, and a special unit card and everything. And that's true. I actually got one of those.
Yeah, so. I know. I should have tried to jump that bandwagon when it was, because that I really irritate myself, because it's such a special character with such a special rules. And also I had I still have immense respect for the guy, but you don't see him too much on the webs or places where I go. So but that would really be one of those. Unfortunately, Brian, if you have an extra, I can switch my only silence for him, but it's close. It's close. I can actually send a silence for a Rick. But they are, in my mind, equal, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Well,
Magnus, anything special that jumps out for you?
No, not really. Like I said, that old Herman etc. kit has been eluding me for all these years. Other than that, I can't really think of anything in particular that I've been hunting for. There are loads of cool stuff, and if for some reason I find something at a decent price, then maybe I'll buy it. But I'm not really hunting for specifics.
But it's interesting,
like that, so.
Even if you're not using it that much, it's interesting to have those, if not unique, then at least more unusual stuff. I have, I got a hold of an old tournament kit a while back, which had those original patches, which that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not something that a lot of people have nowadays. And also you, Magnus, you have the original Dust board game.
Yeah.
So that's also one thing. It's not. I wouldn't think that it's rare, really, but it is unusual.
Again, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And one thing that I would love to get my hands on more was those Fantasy Flight tokens that we got when we had a store championship at your store, Magnus, with the red ones for either the wound markers or the stun marker. That's what I used them for, with the explosion on them, because those plastic markers were really, I think they look good on the battlefield, and I have a bunch of them, but I would really love to have more of those, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
And our final question comes from our Danish friend Lasse Dahl. Given the releases coming this December, how do you think that will affect the game? Also, when do you think the next unit update will come? As mentioned as comments to your last episode, the new units seem more powerful than earlier similar units. For instance, if you compare the Zombie Suicide Squad versus the Cultist Saboteur Squad, or the Mercenary Railgun Team versus the Heavy Grenadier Anti-Tank Team. Also, some weapons such as grenade launchers, Panzerfaust, and recoilless rifles/guns have different stats depending on who uses them, which seems odd to me at least. Well, there's a lot of things to go into here. If you start with the final thing here, the different stats for the same weapon depending on who uses it, I think that's something that's been kind of muddled when the game got into the current state, the 1947, because previously, if you had two units that used similar weapons but not the exact same model, the exact model name for that weapon was actually printed on the card. Nowadays, if you use an assault rifle, the card just says assault rifle, regardless of the model or make. So that kind of muddles things up, and it can be a bit confusing. And I think that is one of the reasons. Like for the Panzerfausts, for instance, there are at least two different models used in the game for Panzerfausts, which have slightly different stats. So I think that is one of the reasons there.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure here what Lasse is referring to, exactly which ones. The one I'm thinking about is the Panzerfaust, for example. Sigrid, she's got Blas against infantry, while regular guys carrying the same, they have 1/1. But I have really no problem with that. I'm seeing it as, okay, this hero is really good at using this weapon, meaning it has a better effect when they are shooting it. So I'm not sure about the other ones, recoilless rifles. I'm not sure which one differs, but I'm suspecting it has to do with what you mentioned there, that it's not supposed to be the exact same weapon. It's called the same, but it's a different model. It's slightly bigger or smaller or whatever. Uses different ammo or something. I don't know.
I mean, we can see that with if you look at sniper rifles, there are like 3 or I think 4, even it could be even more different models used by different units in the game. So
they're all called sniper rifles, but obviously they are very different, and some of them can shoot vehicles up to fairly high armor, and others can't, because they are different types of sniper rifles, but they are still called sniper rifles.
Yeah. Perhaps I'm just not looking carefully enough, but to me also the Teslas sometimes frustrate me because I feel they look the same or seem to be the same size, but they shoot different amount of dice and stuff like that. So that perhaps is a little bit So, but it's the same thing.
Right, and when it comes to, do we think that new units overall are more powerful than old ones? I think these are. I know that Lasse has come with some specific comparisons here. There is a slight problem here that you can't really compare units directly between the blocks, I would feel, because they are differently armed and such. But I do agree in general that not that units necessarily are better, but they might be better for their points costs. So they're getting to be more effective on the battlefield in that sense. And this is nothing unique for Dust. We see this in every game in existence. The new stuff is always a little bit better. It seems like it's a rule for wargaming, unfortunately, and I absolutely understand why they do it. It's business sense. It might not be well liked of the community, but unless you are a hardcore tournament gamer, then those slight differences, which in my opinion at least, there are slight differences. It's not that big, huge difference in most cases. There are outliers, but in most cases there are slight advantages to the newer stuff.
Yeah, I would say
I would say that my point is, for most people, it doesn't make that big of a difference.
Yeah, and I don't think you can see this like over the whole range, like everything new is better. I don't think that's the case at all. There are a few units maybe that are undercosted, but there are also definitely new units that are overcosted.
That happens as well, yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
So, no, I don't really agree with what I think Lasse is saying here. I'm more inclined to say that there are a few of them, maybe. But it also, you have to see it, like you said, in a bigger context. So you can't just compare one unit directly. You have to consider the role of it, and in his specific example here with the zombies, for example, zombies are zombies. Don't forget that they have that zombie save. The cultist doesn't.
No,
the cultists have no defensive tech whatsoever.
That's very true.
So and that's a big difference. That zombie save costs a lot of points.
And you have two quite interesting zombie platoons, at least I feel, and we don't have anything for the Saboteur cultists so far, haven't we?
I think the only thing they have is that they can be a part of the infantry platoon that makes them immune to like the spores and other stuff, but that's not really a big thing. It's not.
They usually don't come up against them probably anyway. So it's just a mixed. Yeah, it's very a mixed picture. So
yeah, he also mentions the mercenary railgun team versus other stuff. And the mercenary railgun team is special in many ways. First of all, it's a mercenary one, meaning anyone can use it.
Yeah.
And also, it's got the unique trait, so you can only have one. You can use it, but you can only have one. So you can't really compare it, as I see it, you can't really compare it to anything, basically.
No, I can see. I can't either see it to be such a great model either. Than you want a railgun, it is a wonderful, interesting thing to have because it's unique and stuff like that. But I can't see it as a game changer. Or it can be, of course, if it's used properly. But not. Well, sorry.
And also, I mean, the other way around. He mentions the heavy grenadier anti-tank unit or support weapon, which I would argue is one of those units that are overcosted, and it has been for a while. It should be, I don't know, but it should be like a point or two cheaper. I don't know exactly, but I haven't seen that being used for a long time, and I myself haven't used it for a very long time.
The issue with those guys, I think, is that they are costed because of their resilience. They have that Soldier 3, they have that damage resilience, but since they are quite slow, they want to be in the back lane and kind of sniping tanks, but they are quite easy to avoid. You can easily position yourself to break line of sight, so you can ignore them in most cases, and you don't have to take them into account that much when playing against them.
No, but they still have the machine gun, and they are
if you come close, but you don't have to in most cases.
No, but they are a super unit to have to defend objective, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get them to it,
I wouldn't put a railgun team to defend an objective. That I never would have done. Okay, the railgun, but isn't the railgun also 1-3 in movement, or am I totally off the scale here, or is that car not out yet, or?
I don't know. Actually,
I just remember. I just
say that the combination with lots of heavy armor and that very slow movement. We see that a lot, but these guys, with most guys, that they want to go in the front lines, but these guys want to stay in the back lines, and that makes their biggest point cost armor, the armor and the resilience, that makes that less useful. And I think that's one of the reasons why they feel overcosted.
Probably, and I think also those are ones that you should have at least two of, so you can a little bit triangulate against. Okay, you try to stay out of my range from one of the big heavy guns, then I have another one on the other side, so then they sustain fire when you move to them, and I think you can actually move the opponent with heavy. And also, I don't know why not more German players play them with the Laura. I've seen a few with the laser. They combine it with the.
That is a pretty good combo, because that take care of that slow movement.
Yeah, they get that fire and move, and they can. Yeah, well, so I'm not. I've never bought the heavy grenadier, unfortunately, anti-tank. I recently got for a few. When they got that big Bleutkreuz box, I got the laser one, and I still find that interesting. So, but okay, well, yeah, move along. I'm just ranting right now. Sorry.
Yeah, and finally, I think we should also talk about when do you think the next unit update will come? I think he means there, when will we see the next big kind of card pack, or when we get a overhaul of the rules and point cost for everything in the game?
Yeah, we talked about this before as well, and I still think that we will probably not see that for a while, and my guess would be around when the Vril arrives, because that will have a big impact on the game. It's a big addition to the game, and I'm guessing somewhere around then, maybe before, maybe after, but kind of close to that will be sort of the next edition of the game anyways, which is a good point to take a look at everything and kind of update stuff, tweak stuff.
So I'm thinking at the very, very earliest, like late next year, but I think even that is probably optimistic.
Yeah. So 1-2 years in the future, I think there's something going to happen around that time. But
it's kind of natural for this type of game to grow and evolve, and sometimes you need to update, because that's just how it is. It's a sort of organic process almost. But you shouldn't do it too often, and you shouldn't wait too long. So it's a kind of delicate process to get it right. But I think they know what they are doing. So.
Yeah.
So we think it is coming, but not in the near future.
Yeah.
All right. We had our little trivia thing going at the start of the show, so maybe we should get back to that and get to question number 2.
Yeah.
What do you think, Magnus?
Right. So question number 2. You probably all of you knows the character called Panzer Prince.
Oh yes.
Maybe you have faced him a couple of times. Maybe you have even played him a couple of times. But what is that guy's sort of real name? Because I'm sure on his driver's license it doesn't say Panzer Prince. It says something else.
Yeah.
So what is that character's real name?
And if you can give us the bonus name of the Panzer King and the Panzer Queen as well, then we will give you an extra prize there.
Right.
And what was the other? We came up with a Panzerwurst.
Yes, or the Panzerwagen.
And the Panzer Franz.
Yeah, we have a whole lot of new Axis heroes you haven't heard about, but we got them, every one of them.
The Panzerhund.
Yeah.
Right, and then you, Ludde, had something that you wanted to bring up as well.
I was thinking a little bit a few weeks ago about how much music affects us and how much it's an overlooked added bonus to gaming experience. And I'm thinking a little bit about what kind of music I want when I play games. We had some different. We haven't played Dust a few times now when we've been at your place, Magnus, and you have had some really nice playlists, themed music that has been very good to extend the game and give us more of a getting into the spirit of the game that we're playing. Yeah. But then also I started thinking about you can always have at tournaments. We had a few discussions about perhaps having a special theme song for your army. They were at one game club that I played a few times that had always theme songs, and you could add your theme song to the playlist. Unfortunately, there, even though I like some heavy metal, I could really like it, and also I truly like. Johnny Cash a lot, but unfortunately, in that gaming club, every army list was either a very heavy death metal, or even the step beyond that with the growling and everything, or they had Johnny Cash. And of course, it's good that at least there was 2 different types of music, but it got a little bit tedious in the long run, but it was always the same type of music.
Yeah.
And then I went back to the thing that we did when we were younger, because back in the day there we had the cassette deck.
Oh.
So we made
the mixtape.
Yeah, the mixtapes, and we made. And we tried to incorporate, at least those guys that were playing with me there, we tried to incorporate everyone's music, or everyone had different special. Like, I found this the intro to this here show. Oh, great! Let's add it to it because it's just an iconic and good thing. Basically, I thought first off, let's dust off actually with some old classics that perhaps a lot of you haven't heard, and I just like to give you the possibility to perhaps add these strange tunes to your
mixtape.
To your mixtape. Because what happened was when the tape recorders were going out of existence, at least in the beginning, we were doing mixed CDs.
Yeah, I did that as well. Yeah.
But for some bad reasons, I feel like when the playlist on the Spotifys and those stuff came along, you got, or perhaps we just got older and we got a little bit. It was more like themed list, and you don't put that effort in making those special.
It's a difference between like single malt whiskey and blended whiskey.
Yeah, and I actually like single more than blended, but in this this part of it, I like the blended ones. But I would also like to invite you to on your experiences with game music. What are your thoughts? what's important for you? Do you use it? Do you feel it annoying, or do you have fond memories? Or
like you mentioned earlier, I use Spotify, which I think is great. Because it's very easy to put together. You can search and you can find, and you also get recommendations. I mean, when you start, maybe you have a sort of idea what you want, and you add some stuff, and then you get Spotify recommends based on the songs in your list. You get more recommendations, and you can find more stuff. So that's kind of what I started. Like, I have an idea what I want, and I start adding stuff. And I mean, right now, I haven't been working on those lists for a while, but I have, put in some effort into them, like really listening to the songs and choosing which one I want. But it takes some time to do that. Yeah. So, yeah. But, like you said, also, it's a very good way to give a better feeling, get into that mood, whatever game it is. The problem I think that I have to choose very carefully about songs with lyrics in them. Mm-hmm. Because that for me can be very distractive. So I tend to prefer songs without words. But also if it's you mentioned Johnny Cash, and I like the Old West genre, and I have a bunch of those games, and I have a playlist that I kind of use, and many of those, they have lyrics, because in those cases I think it kind of fits, or at least the ones I have chosen. For example, like you mentioned Johnny Cash there. It's something special with his voice, so that kind of works anyways.
Yeah, he does.
But if I would play Dust with music, I would probably try to choose stuff that don't have too many words in them. Mm-hmm. It's more just for the mood, for the background. Mm.
Yeah, I get that, and I feel I really understand where you're coming from. But I think if it's the right song that has the right, perhaps, connection to the group also, that the one I'm going to sample you here in a few moments. It's very special one that it got very special for everyone who was in the gaming group, and everyone at least seemed to like it very, very high for several reasons. And the lyrics in this song is quite important, I would say, for the liking of the song. But
right, there are special cases.
Yeah, yes, definitely. So but and our mixtapes, they were very mixed with themes from TV series, movies, and special songs. But we didn't, of course, they were never the top of the charts songs. We wanted of course, perhaps the weird ones. Yeah. So what I also like to say is, like, if you guys, for the coming up episodes, have weird songs or that you connect to gaming, I would love to hear them. I would also love to hear suggestions from the audience, what they can tips like.
Yeah, post some comments on the YouTube channel or whatever. And that would be interesting to see what people come up with.
Unfortunately, for rights and stuff like that, I think we just have to play a few seconds of the song. We will have it in the link in below, so you can. I would recommend you to, when you hear the music start now, put pause, go to YouTube, listen to the song, and come back, and we will perhaps talk about it. I would love to have your reaction to this this little thing of mine.
All right, sure. Right.
Boys, bring it down. And for you who don't perhaps know this immortal tune, this is, of course, from King Uchnovich and the Uchnovich Stones, and their Little Dead Surfer Girl from the well-known album Teenage Dance Party. They are dubbed as, this is probably the high point of their career, I must say. They did, what I know, they did 2 albums, LPs, and they are in possession with one of my friends, has them in his record collection. I'm jealous like hell for he's having both of them. On the back of the LPs, they are dubbed as being the worst music group ever to have actually been voted to be. But I mean, it's such a classic, important song about you need to know how to swim when you go into the ocean. Don't carry too much gold when you surf.
It's very Dr. Demento, it feels. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you can see. I mean, little Rhonda walking out of the water in a dust environment.
Yeah.
I mean, there's you could link this actually, but of course, it's so beautiful that he never forgets the word she says to him, but he doesn't tell us what the word is.
No.
It's so many wonderful little. So this is my.
So many levels.
Yeah, so many levels. This is high-end stuff to me. I don't know, guys. What's your take on this?
So yeah, that's your contribution to the mixtape. Then. Yeah. I would say just not really as a result. This is definitely my type of music. In a way, I have a very eclectic taste, and like Magnus said, I when I listen to music for the music's own sake, I definitely prefer stuff with lyrics, with interesting lyrics in different ways, and this definitely counts as interesting, I would say. But I don't think that much of the music that I prefer to listen to, for that sake, is music that I would want to game to. And usually when I have like game evenings and such at my place, I usually don't have any music, and that's basically, I would say, because of kind of uncertainty on my part. I want it to be a good experience for everyone, and I don't want to unintentionally ruin it for nobody else.
No,
so that's basically why. So
yeah, and this is, of course, we were a very well-gelled group of individuals, and of course it's disturbing when 5-6 guys all of a sudden sing the chorus together, but also it could be in the heat of a moment when people are starting to get irritated with each other, and if you do have a sing-along then, perhaps...
it very much depends on the situation, really. But I was talking about when you play some game with a nice theme that you can find music to relate to. So that's what I'm trying to do, kind of enhance that theme. For example, like I mentioned with the Westerns, or the game that we played not too long ago, which was a kind of horror, sort of sci-fi horror-ish. The music was very, I don't know, dark, and sometimes it got a bit, higher pace. You would get that sort of...
Movie soundtracks are a good source to pull from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, music in movies are essential.
Yeah.
They are, they bring so much... and
so it is actually interesting that I think movies, if you just go to movies nowadays, I think use too much music. If you go back and look at older movies, they're usually long periods of time where there's just silence in the background, and I feel that's very refreshing.
Oh yeah,
that when the music kicks in, then it's more dynamic. It becomes something different, and when it's just constantly bombarded with audio, then it kind of loses that punch, I feel. So that was kind of a side thing.
I mean, I'm not a musician, but I'm guessing that writing music for movies is very different from writing other types of music.
Of course.
Again, in the list I use for Old West, a lot of that music is from a particular composer, Ennio Morricone, who is a master of movie music, and he's done so much. Yeah. Not all Western, he's done a lot of other stuff as well. And in many cases, in his tunes, there are parts where there are like very little sound. You just hear some string instrument or some, I don't know, something just very in the background, and then it starts building and races into kind of climax.
Yeah.
And like, in some modern movies there are just too much of that. Lack of sound can also be very dramatic.
Definitely.
Definitely.
So it's a sort of, very fine balance there.
I can link that into why I also like, the vanilla units and why I want more vanilla units in the game. Because then when I have the walker, the special thing, it pops out and it looks, if I only have special walkers,
then nothing is special.
Yeah, then it's nice, but it's, that's just a reflection. Okay, I will threaten the audience and you both sirs that I will bring up something a little bit similar but very different next episode if you let me.
Yeah, very cool.
Let's see what the audience can
what they can scrounge up from their collections and their old mixtapes. So
enrich us, please.
Definitely. So let's go over to some tournament talk. We have some exciting tournaments coming up here in Europe. First off, we got Die Hungerspiele in Berlin, Germany, 29th of September. This sounds really fun. This is something that is turn up with one of the commandos over here in Europe, Daniel. And this is kind of, I think, just going by the name, this is sort of inspired by the Hunger Games, and he promises it's going to be 3 games with funny scenarios. This sounds like it could be very fun. So if you have the opportunity to go to Berlin at the end of September, then check that out. There will be a link in the show notes to where you can register for this. And Marek from War Factory is going to be present. So you are probably be able to shop a bit as well. So this sounds like a very fun experience, and we hope we're going to get some battle reports, some pictures and such from this event. I'm not sure if anyone of us is able to go to this specific event.
I'm totally screwed, so unfortunately it looks really fun, and I would love to go to just pop over there, but I have the kid and it's high season at work, so this is, unfortunately, it's beyond me.
But next up, we have something that we might be able to go to.
Yeah.
This is the Dust Railway Tournament in Tranås, Sweden, 2nd and 3rd of November. So it's quite a long way off, so maybe. And this is also going to be interesting. It's kind of, you've talked a bit about, this is our friend Ninja Roger, who is arranging this. And this is kind of a little, what would you say, it's a narrative tournament in a way.
I understood it like it was story driven, and it was going to be something different from the ordinary. So, and I have all intentions of going there.
We don't really have that much of details on how it's going to work. We know that how it's going to be 5 scenarios split over 2 days. So November 2nd and 3rd, and there's also a special bonus if you register in the next 2 weeks. So if you register before September 15th, then you are eligible to win a VK stash, which is going to be delivered to you at the tournament.
Yeah, well, that's another reason why you should go to this tournament.
And Roger told me that if you win, which they will announce well in advance, then you're also allowed to use it in your army, since you're going to get that at the tournament. So,
nice.
That's an opportunity for a few people to get a hold of that, I think.
That's really, really nice. And in my understanding of it, I think they have quite ample of living possibilities. So I think you could go, if you want to go to buy the cheap, I'm not going to...
You can backpack over, basically.
Yeah, and, I think they can manage to stash you somewhere. This is my idea now, so they haven't promised this at all. But that's just the impression I'm getting. So I think don't hesitate to take a connection with Roger, or I think Kalle, or the other ones from the Tranås Mafia about this, because I think they can help you find a place to stay if you are short of cash.
Absolutely. And we will include a link to where you can find more information and register for this in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
And next up, we have a little bit of a special announcement for...
Yeah. Oh, cool. You want me to do it? You wanted me to do it live, of course.
We're doing it live.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can do this then. And
you've heard him speak. You've seen his cat, and you've been spanked by his monkeys. This November 2019, Johannes Berling is once again arranging the German Masters in Berlin. And you owe it to yourselves to be there.
Or be square. Yes. Yes, it's the German Masters 2019 in Berlin. It's November 16th and 17th.
Yes.
And it's going to be held in the same venue as last year, which, if I remember correctly, it was the War Gaming... Oh, what's the name of the store? I remember he said that, and now it's completely out of my head. But it's almost worth going to Berlin just to visit that shop, because it's one of the greatest. I think I talked about this after I went there last year. It's one of the greatest wargaming shops I've ever been to. That said, it maybe not if you've been to larger stuff in like the US. I have no experience there, but. Other than that, I think this is going to be a fantastic event. It certainly was last year, and I hope I will be able to attend. I don't know how you guys are feeling. It's a few months ahead still, so might be.
Yeah, I'm very hyped about this. I'm very psyched about it. I want to go by all means. It's a little bit hard that the Tronos and the Berlin thing is so close together, because it's going to make it a little bit hard. But both those weekends are, I'm family free, so to speak, so I have the possibility. I know we have a hectic 2 weeks there at work, but I'm seriously wanting to go, even if I just have to, take a plane, land the same morning, and just do this, because I hated myself for not going last year, even though I didn't have the money, so it was impossible. But I really, really want to go. I do.
Yeah, it sounds very tempting. I would also like to go to this.
So I think we should look at our options and see if we can do some kind of a
try to work on that.
Kind of road trip or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually like to point this out, because it almost has something with this to do with this. But I actually went with those special, long travel bus chain back home from Paris. I flew down and then I went with the bus when I went home, and it was actually much better than I thought.
Oh.
I had really horror images beforehand how this could have ended, but they did it so well, and it was such a good trip.
Was it direct travel from Paris to Gothenburg?
No, almost. It was a change of bus in Copenhagen.
No, so it's just one switch.
Yeah, one switch. And,
that's not bad.
Yeah, for some unbelievable reason, if we went by train, it was like 5 or 6 switches, and in the middle of the night you have to switch train. It's a scandal that they don't have it better in with the trains. But okay, enough said about it. Just going to Berlin. I know the same company do a one-way trip with no change, so you should be able to go from Gothenburg all the way down, and that. Well, if it's no other way I can go, that at least is a possibility. So.
Very cool. So we'll see what we can do there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's it for this episode.
Nope.
But then we have one final little thing to do before we round off.
We have another question.
We have question number 3.
Exactly.
No, sorry. It didn't sound like you were at all aware of this. No. You were running somewhere else at the same time.
Yeah, we have the final question in this character trivia.
Yes.
So here it is. You probably have heard about a character who likes to cook. They call him the chef. But what is this guy's real name? Because, it's probably not the chef. So, what does his driver license says?
Yes.
And from what we've heard, this is also one of those characters that is based on an actual real person. In a matter of fact, it's from what I've understood, it's a friend of Oliver's.
Right.
So, what is his real name? Yeah. And as with all the other links, there will be a link on our webpage to where you can enter this contest. And as we said at the start, the prize for this will be the Mercenary Railgun team. So definitely worth
Tasty.
it checking out. And we have some special plans also for when we are going to have our next get together with I think it's going to be very exciting.
Yes.
Both for us and for our viewers and listeners, hopefully, because we are going to do our first battle report.
Yes.
That's the plan, at least.
Yeah, exactly. And how that turns out, we'll see.
Yeah, and all made-up plans are always going to, well, perhaps when you face the enemy, to us will be. But then also, correct me if I'm wrong, the episode after that, we're celebrating 3 years. Anniversary, so, or at least you are, and we are just, well, we're in it as well nowadays. So then most likely that hopefully will be a very special episode. That's all we should say right now. But so please, next 2 episodes hopefully will be something out of the extraordinary.
We hope so.
Yes.
So until we see...
But sorry, just to make it clear, because I'm not clear about this, and perhaps someone else isn't. The competition. Right.
Yes.
It's a month they have on them.
Yes, correct. So until October 1st, you have until that to enter this competition, the trivia competition. That is correct.
Splendid. I just thought we... okay, please.
So until next time... maybe you will actually see us on the battlefield. Thank you for listening to Dust War Journals. You can find us at dustwarjournals.com or on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dust War Journals. And you can find our Patreon page at patreon.com/dustwarjournals. All music used in this podcast is made by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com.